Jared Polin here, FroKnowsPhoto.com. You have your camera, you need to figure out what to do with it, and we're going to delve into a little bit of the super secret project without really giving you too much information about it. I've been talking about meat and potatoes lately, not the edible kind, but there's a lot of sites out there that give you tips, but they don't give you the how-to aspect. They don't go into detail and give you, if you do this, this is going to happen, and if you try this, this is going to happen. I mean, photography is a lot of trial and error. I want you to all know that whatever I say isn't the gospel. I mean, it's not the gospel, because the best thing to do is take information from everywhere and decide what works for you, because you determine what makes the best picture for you. Other people could tell you it's technically wrong, but technically anything, it's what works for you. This is an art form, so if it looks good to you, then that's all that matters. All right, so we have D3000, but this isn't about the camera. This is about, you have your camera and you're stuck in the auto mode. What are things you can do to get out of auto mode? Well, if you look at the camera, you have the P. The P basically is full auto without the camera setting your ISO. That's the first thing that you want to learn to set yourself. If you remember film, you had 100 speed, 200 speed, 400, 800, and then they had like 1600 color, So when did you use these settings? Well, if it was really bright outside and you were just shooting landscapes and things like that, slow shutter speeds, 100 speed was fine. It also had the finest grain, which meant it would be enlarged, it would look better enlarged. As you got into higher ISOs like 800, I would use Fuji Press 800 shooting concerts, because I knew I needed faster shutter speeds, and that would give me more grain. So the same thing holds true. But if you let the camera constantly tell you what the ISO is, or let the camera do all the work, you're not really learning anything. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to get out of auto mode. But this is digital. There's a lot of, you have a lot in your favor now than when I learned on film, because you can take a picture, look at the data, and go, okay, it was at 2/50th of a second at f4, and it looks, too bright or something like that. We can't always go by the screen, but that's something we're going to get into later. So when you're shooting your pictures, take a look at what the settings are, because the best way to learn how to use your camera is to understand what happens with those settings. So if you're out shooting, take a picture, look at the settings in its auto mode, then go, okay, let me switch into manual and set those same settings that the camera did, and then move them down and move them up. Because when you start doing that, you're going to see what happens when you make those little changes. So now you're going to start to associate, if I drop my shutter speed, this is what happens when I shot that subject. They blurred. This is what happened when I made the shutter speed faster. They froze. Okay? So we're going to start to see the association with, by making one change, this happens. By making this change, the next thing happens. Okay? So getting out of auto mode is really the first step. And program, it's the P mode. That's still auto, but it gives you the ability to set your ISO yourself. That's the first thing. I want you to get used to setting that yourself. If you're outdoors, you're shooting sports, 400's a good place to go. Why? Because it's going to give you a bump in your shutter speed. And it's very bright, so it's going to work fine. You're indoors, what's going to happen? I'm shooting in the lowest light situation possible. I know I should be at 1600, but I know grain is going to happen. Okay? So start to think about what's going on when you do these settings. And when you think about it, that's the best thing that you can do. You start to associate the little changes that you're going to make with how your camera's going to react and how your photo's going to be. And you're going to make it better. So always remember, shoot raw, because you're going to get a good, there's my timer to let me know I'm close to 5 minutes. But that's what you need to do. So that's my first little insight into the D3000 super secret project.